Oh, what's good, y'all? It's your boy Wavy, Stay Wavy TV, back at y'all with another video. Let's get it. I want to talk about this whole situation with Joe Budden. So for those that don't know, I'm pretty sure you already know, but for those that's not familiar, Joe Budden yesterday fired Rory and Mal for not showing up to work, not coming to the podcast. But the main reason why he's getting rid of Rory and Mal is because of finances. You know what I'm saying? Basically, Rory and Mal were not happy with what they were getting paid after Joe Budden got the sponsorship with Cash App. So because of that, there was a lot of tension on the show. And for a couple of weeks, Rory was basically telling Joe he can catch the hands. For those that don't know what that means, we could fight, we could get to it. You know what I'm saying? So Rory was constantly telling Joe Budden he wants to fight him. You know what I'm saying? And what ended up happening was Joe Budden pretty much suspended Rory, and Mal told Joe Budden that if Rory's not going to be on the show, he's not going to be on the show, because Mal feels like Joe, Mal, and Rory, they're all a team. So if Rory's not going to show up, he's not showing up, because he doesn't think that it would feel right recording the podcast without the whole team. So Mal took some time off as well. Joe Budden had a huge problem with that, because Joe Budden and Mal, they have a long-term friendship with each other. They've known each other much longer than Joe Budden and Rory has known each other. You know what I'm saying? Like, Joe Budden and Mal have lived together for years. Like, they're very close friends. So Joe Budden was very shocked that Mal was taken up for Rory in any type of way, because, it was mainly Rory that was pressuring Joe Budden about the finances of the show. Mal, he had an issue with it. He had an issue with it as well. He just didn't prioritize it. Mal's whole thing is he wants to be respected. He wants to come to a comfortable work environment where he feels wanted, and he just wants to have a good time. But his whole thing is about respect and having morals and principles, right? And he feels like Joe Budden doesn't uphold the same standards. Just like he said on the last show before they stopped popping up again, he said, I know that everybody's not built like me, but I'm all about respect, morals, and principles. You know what I'm saying? So the whole thing with Rory, right? The thing is with Rory was asking Joe Budden, why isn't he and Mal getting paid from the YouTube revenue from the podcast, and why they're not getting paid from the Patreon revenue of the podcast. And he felt like he wasn't getting paid what he should get paid in general. Just whatever Joe was paying him, he felt like he wasn't getting paid what he should get paid. So what was going on was Rory basically hired a lawyer to try to, force Joe Budden to show him where exactly is all this money going to. He had questions about certain people that's a part of the podcast. He was asking why certain people are getting paid this, because I guess certain people that's a part of the podcast was getting paid more than him and Mal. And he just had a lot of questions, you know what I'm saying? And he also felt like Joe Budden should have stuck up for him while Academics was constantly coming at Mal and Rory every week, because we all know that Joe Budden and Academics was on Everyday Struggle together. So Rory and Mal had an issue with Joe Budden still being cool with DJ Academics, because every week DJ Academics is on Twitch coming at their neck saying a bunch of crazy shit. You know what I'm saying? But what I want to explain to y'all is the real reason why the Joe Budden podcast didn't work out with Joe, Rory, and Mal. Fact of the matter is this: Joe Budden isn't somebody that manages relationships well. That's his main problem as a person in business, right? Let me explain. when you look at Joe Budden's rap career, right? He started off with Def Jam, had problems with Def Jam, was struggling to sell records, ended up becoming an independent artist, right? And then he ended up becoming a YouTuber. You feel me? He had a YouTube show with Tahiri. That didn't work out. They constantly got into fights. That didn't work out. So they stopped doing that show together, right? That was the first like YouTube show Joe Budden had, was him and Tahiri. That shit didn't work out. It was a disaster. You know what I'm saying? So after that, he ended up signing to Eminem. Aftermath, Shady Aftermath, right? He signed to a group called Slaughterhouse. It's Joe Budden, Royce da 5'9", Crooked Eye, and I believe Joel Ortiz, right? Now, what happened was Joe Budden felt like the group wasn't getting treated fairly. He didn't like the type of beats that the record label was forcing the group to rap on. And what happened was he started dissing Eminem, and he decided that he didn't want to be a part of the group anymore. Now, the group was still in the contract. I believe that the group only put out one album, I believe. Somebody correct me in the comments. But I believe that Slaughterhouse put out one album together. And after that, Joe Budden decided that he's not going to record any more songs with the group. And he ended up going on Love and Hip Hop. Became a reality TV star instead of, sticking to the contract. So it's interesting because Joe Budden told Rory yesterday that if he doesn't believe that his contract is fair, he should wait until the contract is up and he should renegotiate. But when Joe Budden was signed to Slaughterhouse and Eminem with Interscope Records, Shady Aftermath, he didn't live up to the contract. Crooked Eye and Royce da 5'9" and Joel Ortiz were literally begging Joe Budden to come back to the group, finish recording the albums that they owe the label so they can get paid and they can move on. Joe Budden refused to do that. Instead, he started dissing Eminem constantly, disrespecting Eminem constantly, and just said fuck all of them. So, can you imagine if you agree to something with somebody that you're cool with, and because he's not happy with certain things, he puts you and other people that's a part of the group at risk of not being able to feed your family? Because that's exactly what he did. Right? Him not owning up to that contract put all of the other artists that was a part of Slaughterhouse, he put them at risk of not being able to feed their family. And he left them high and dry. That's exactly what Joe Budden did. And then you start dissing the guy that signed you in the first place because you're not happy with the type of beats he wants you to rap on. Instead of just being a man and just sitting down with everybody and having a regular conversation. Right? So let's move on, right? So after the Slaughterhouse thing and after he went on Love and Hip Hop, that's when Joe Budden started the Joe Budden podcast, which was originally with a lady named Marissa from Hot 97. She was I think she was one of the first co-hosts to be on the Joe Budden podcast. That didn't last for more than a month or two. He fired her. Joe Budden fired her because he felt like she couldn't separate her personal personality off the show. She couldn't mix that well with being on the podcast, so he fired her. And he didn't call her. He didn't call her to meet up in person. He just sent her a text saying you're fired. Instead of meeting up with her like a decent human being, he literally sent her a text message saying you're fired. So after that, then he does Everyday Struggle, right? Then he did Everyday Struggle. That was on Complex with DJ Academics and Adeska. And I'm going to be honest with y'all. Everyday Struggle is probably the best hip hop show that I've ever seen on YouTube. It was amazing. It was amazing. It was amazing content. I loved it. Right? But it didn't last for like more than a year. Because once again, Joe Budden had a problem with something. He couldn't have his way. He couldn't have control. Because what you guys got to notice is the reason why all of these things aren't working out with whatever Joe Budden attaches himself to is because he can't have full control. And he doesn't know how to handle relationships with people well. He doesn't. So he went on Everyday Struggle. The show was going viral. The show was doing very well. But because he felt like he wasn't getting paid properly, he left. After his contract was up, he left. So that show was pretty much over. And that's when he started to mainly focus on the Joe Budden podcast with Rory and Mal. Right? Now, I want y'all to think about this. The original name of the Joe Budden podcast is supposed to be called I'll Name This Podcast Later. That was the name of the podcast originally before it was suddenly changed to the Joe Budden podcast. And Joe Budden said yesterday, while he was firing Rory and Mal, he said that Rory and Mal had a problem with him changing the name of the podcast. Now think about this, right? Think about this. You got three guys that's homies, right? That all agreed to, we're going to name this podcast, I'll Name This Podcast Later. That's what they named it. Like for the first couple hundred episodes, that's what they named it. And suddenly Joe Budden decided, fuck y'all niggas, I'm going to name it the Joe Budden Podcast. Even though there's two other people that's on the podcast with me, I'm going to just put y'all name under the Joe Budden Podcast. You see what I mean? Why would you do something like that? Because, for example, I'm going to give you an example, right? My YouTube channel is called Stay Wavy TV. If I'm going to have a podcast with just myself, I'm going to name it the Stay Wavy TV Podcast. But if I'm going to have a podcast with two other people, I'm going to sit with those two other people and all three of us are going to decide on the name of the podcast that we all agree on. I'm not just going to name it what I want to name it because I'm the one that came up with the podcast thing first. Because if that's the case, it's just going to be me on there. I want to come up with a name that we all feel comfortable with because all three of us on this podcast are going to do our best to make this podcast successful. And that's the number one thing that it seems like Joe Budden is not understanding. Rory and Mal played a very huge role in his podcast being successful. That's a fact. So if they feel like, and that's the thing, right? This is another thing, right? How do you have a podcast and the people that's a part of the podcast, how are you not splitting any of that YouTube revenue? Because what a lot of people don't understand is Rory and Mal were doing the podcast for free for a long time. I believe the first couple of years the podcast started, they were doing it for free. They weren't even getting paid. They didn't start getting paid until recently. I believe like 2 years ago, that's when they started getting paid. And they really started getting paid really well after Joe Budden turned down the Spotify deal because they were supposed to get a sponsorship with Spotify that Joe Budden ended up not doing. So the way that he's handling this situation is a prime example of why whenever Joe Budden starts something with other people, it never ends well, ever. It's almost as if he self-destructs it purposefully. Everything. I don't even think he's on the state of the, I think it's called State of the Union, State of the Culture on Revolt TV. I don't even think he's doing that anymore. For whatever reason. So the real reason why this podcast is ending the way it's ending is because of Joe Budden. It's not because of Rory. It's not because of Mal. It's because of Joe Budden. How many times have we seen Joe Budden have a problem with somebody? How many times? Now, I totally understand that Joe Budden, being somebody that was a rapper that was signed to a major label, I totally understand that. Yes, it's his YouTube channel that he's putting the podcast on. Yes, he started the podcast without Rory and Mal. I totally get all of those things. I'm not sitting here saying that Rory and Mal should be getting paid exactly what Joe's getting paid. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, if you're gonna start a business with your friends should be treated equally 100%. They shouldn't have to ask you, hey man, why are we not getting anything from the YouTube revenue? They shouldn't have to ask you, hey man, look, like guys, listen to this. Let me tell you what Joe Budden said. When Rory and Mal questioned Joe Budden about why they're not getting paid from the YouTube revenue, you know what Joe Budden said to them? He said, you guys aren't going to get paid from my YouTube channel, even though you're on the podcast that I'm uploading to my channel. But what you guys can do is you can upload your own YouTube channel and you can upload clips from the podcast to your channel. Now think about this. Why the fuck would they do that? Does that make any sense? Why would Rory and Mal create a YouTube channel just to upload the same thing that everybody's already watching on Joe Budden's main channel, just so they can make money off of something they're already a part of? Why not just say, hey, listen, man, I'm going to show you guys how much we make every month off the podcast, and I'm going to give you guys a fair split between you two. That's the fair thing to do, in my opinion. Right? If he's uploading clips of their podcast onto the Patreon, Rory and Mal should get a cut of that because they're on it. And they've done the podcast for free for years. I want y'all to think about that. They were doing the podcast free for years. Joe Budden was getting paid from it the whole time. The entire time he was getting paid from it. So that's just the truth, man. That's just the truth. I see a lot of people saying a lot of bad things about Rory, saying that he's ungrateful and he shouldn't have been asking Joe the questions. Yes, he should have asked him those questions because he's a part of that podcast, or he was a part of it. He played a huge role in it, just like Mal did. There's some people out there that watch the podcast because of Mal and Rory. Everybody's not a fan of Joe Budden. A lot of people watch that podcast because they're fans of Rory and Mal. They like what they bring to the show. So if these guys feel like they're getting screwed and they're not getting properly compensated and you're not being fair with the finances, you shouldn't just tell them no and kick them to the curb, bro. That's fucked up. Especially if that's your homies. They shouldn't have to feel bad for asking you a question. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, man, let me know what y'all think in the comment section. It's your boy Wavy. I'm out this bitch.